Get in before you catch your death of cold.
Now you just tell us where home is.
Anywhere but Derry.
This stuff gives me the willies. W-I, Ray.
He spells everything.
Let me out! Out!
O-U-T. O-U-T. O-U-T.
Give me your hand!
Welcome to Derry is a proposition about what Derry is, how it feeds, and why the horror never really stops. The show moves between two planes, kids in town and the adults on the nearby Air Force base, and it keeps showing you that Derry is a place where cruelty is normal, where authority either looks away or is part of the problem, and where the thing under the town doesn't just eat children, it's eating the town's sense of decency. The series also plays like a scavenger hunt, every frame filled with signals, cross-references, and nods that tether this prequel to the broader Stephen King multiverse. Hey guys, what's happening? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained, and today we're breaking down the first two episodes of Welcome to Derry, explaining what happens and the many Easter eggs littered throughout. Don't forget to hit subscribe and the notification icon to stay up to date on all the latest content, and click the like button to help appease the algorithm gods. Also, if you'd like to make a suggestion on what you want me to cover next, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments below.
Lily Bainbridge, have you lost your marbles?
Daddy?
The show takes place in 1962, decades before the Losers Club, and tells us up front that this is already a cursed ecosystem. The series opens in the Capitol Theatre during a screening of The Music Man, a warm, safe slice of small-town Americana. The film is upbeat and everyone is behaving the way a postcard version of the early 60s says they should behave. Then we meet Matty Clements, a kid who is young, vulnerable, and clearly alone. He's sitting there sucking on a pacifier, which makes him read even younger than he is, and he clearly didn't pay to get in. An usher calls him out, ready to call the police on him, but Hank Grogan, the projectionist, steps in and tells him to let the boy be. When asked where the kid went, Hank's daughter Ronnie lies, covering for Matty. Right away, the episode makes two things clear. Matty is surviving on scraps of kindness, while Hank and Ronnie are the few people in Derry acting like his life matters.
You see a boy running around here?
He went that way.
Personal favorite, you.
From there, Matty bolts into the night. It's winter, snowing, and he's not sneaking home. He's running away from Derry itself, with his bruised eye indicating signs of domestic abuse. He's literally on the roadside with his thumbs up, trying to hitchhike, when a car pulls over with a mother, father, and their two kids. A picture of a perfect nuclear family. They ask where home is, and Matty answers, anywhere but Derry. The nice family at first welcomes him in, but the mask slips almost immediately. In the back seat, the son practices spelling out words that aren't remotely wholesome, while the daughter opens a Tupperware container of raw liver meat. The entire car feels wrong, like Derry grew its own fake family to lure a runaway.
I am nice. When I want to be.
There goes my little harlot.
Matty glances at the passing road signs and realizes they're not driving him away, but looping back toward Derry. He panics and begs to get out, but no one in the car reacts like that's a normal request from a terrified child. Without any other options, he lunges toward the steering wheel in a last-ditch attempt to save himself, and that's when the show stops pretending to be grounded. The mother's stomach convulses in a way that is not human, and everyone in the car starts chanting for the baby to come out, the way people chant at a sports game. Blood floods the seat, limbs move under her skin in a way no fetus should be able to move. It's not childbirth, it's a summoning. What comes out of her is wrong. The baby that is born is a mutated, winged thing with an umbilical cord trailing behind it like a cable. It's also not helpless, it's ravenous, and it launches into the back seat like a weapon, going straight for Matty. In Chapter 2's Jade of the Orient scene, Muschietti tossed in a fortune cookie bestiary at the losers, including a buzzing bat thing and a mewling baby head on insect legs. Welcome to Derry simply fuses the grotesqueries to the birth of a new cycle. Unfortunately, Matty is ultimately cornered against the car door as his pacifier goes flying out the car window before it splashes down into the water and drifts toward a storm drain. The shot tracks it as it disappears into Derry's underbelly toward an unnatural glow. That glow evokes the Deadlights, Pennywise's cosmic predatory essence in both the book and the films. The implication is brutal. Matty is being claimed, and his last babyish comfort is surrendered to the thing in the sewers. From there, we jump ahead 4 months into April 1962, and the story splits. On the one side are the kids in Derry, the ones who knew Matty, or at least hovered orbiting his loneliness. On the other side is the Derry Air Force Base, which is introduced like its own separate thriller plot. 2 Air Force officers, Captain Paulie Russo and Major Leroy Hanlon, arrive and are greeted like heroes. Leroy in particular matters because his last name immediately places him in the Hanlon bloodline, which in the larger It mythology becomes the keeper of Derry's memory. The series is telling us that this family's connection to the town's horror doesn't start with Mike Hanlon in the 80s. It began with his grandfather Leroy and will continue with Mike's father William.
When the nuclear shit hits the fan, we'll be the first call.
If the nuclear shit hits the fan.
You waste time hemming and hawing, and someone else is gonna make that choice for you.
The base is presented as the tip of the spear against the Soviet Union, a Cold War frontline outpost in small-town Maine. Leroy is briefed on nuclear readiness, on flying B-52 bombers into enemy airspace if things go hot, and on a restricted warehouse on base marked off for special projects, which is mentioned as being classified. The subtext is that this town is actually plugged straight into global annihilation. It's not just a sewer in Maine, it's sitting on top of the end of the world. The way the officers talk is clinical, patriotic, and upbeat. The idea is that Derry is wholesome and normal, and American as apple pie, and also casually staging for nuclear war. That duality, polite surface, apocalyptic core, mirrors exactly what the show is doing with Pennywise. Everything is fine, everything is safe, right up until a child is torn apart.
Well, if normal is what you're after, you two are going to love Derry.
The King-verse cameo here that made everybody point at their screens is a younger Dick Halloran driving them toward the base. In King's canon, he explains The Shine to Danny Torrance in The Shining, and later helps survivors at the Black Spot in Derry. The series knits that history by placing Dick on base alongside Major Hanlon, with subtle indications that his gift is already in quiet use. But more on that in episode 2. When the brass keep invoking special projects, it's a sly cross-current to King's shadow government machinery, the kind of proto-shop bureaucracy fans know from Firestarter and the Project Arrowhead fiasco in The Mist. For more on The Mist, check out my latest video covering that. The show never says those names, and it doesn't have to. The euphemism and the secrecy rhyme with King's catalogue of official hubris. In a Derry story, the institutions that should protect you are the ones fiddling with doors they don't understand. We also learn that Leroy is not some green pilot. He has war in his bones. He grew up working farmland and flying crop dusters, and then worked his way up into the Air Force. He's decorated for his service in Korea, and is the kind of guy that command calls brave to his face. But we immediately see that his presence in Derry is not really about honor. It's bait, as we'll find he's not being told the entire truth about why he's been brought here. Meanwhile, Maddie's disappearance is still hanging over the kids as nobody in authority seems to have solved it. Teddy Uris is the one who can't let it go. Teddy is quiet, observant, and emotionally honest enough to say out loud the thing nobody wants to say. Maddie didn't have any real friends. He wasn't some golden boy who's going to trigger a town-wide prayer vigil. It was a boy that other kids tolerated. Teddy even openly admits that he and Phil, the loud, conspiracy-driven friend in their orbit, were basically paid in candy to show up to Maddie's birthday.
We're doing her a favor, a good deed.
We didn't even know it was his birthday.
That's how unwanted this kid was. That cold honesty is important because Pennywise doesn't just feed on fear, it feeds on guilt, and these kids are already ripe with guilt before anything supernatural visibly touches them.
None of this is our fault, and whether you accept it or not, Maddie's dead.
I should note the school is filled with a few Easter eggs, many of which we'll discuss at the very end, but in the whole, Teddy urine is etched into Teddy's locker, which ties 2 webs at once. First, it winks at the cruel nickname lobbied at Stanley Uris in the novel. Second, it quietly positions Teddy, whose family we see as devoutly Jewish, as related to Stan.
I can't believe we're related.
In fact, Teddy's brother Donald is Stan's father in the novel, and Teddy's anxious gentleness reads like a genetic rhyme with Stan's bookish sensitivity.
I'm trying to talk about Maddie. What's talking about it gonna do? Bring him back to life?
Phil, for his part, is a Cold War paranoic in miniature. He's glued to ideas about nuclear winter, flying saucers, the government lying to everyone, and the idea that Derry Air Force Base is hiding something extraterrestrial in that special projects hangar.
You didn't study for the test at all, did you? What's the point when World War III is imminent?
His bedroom wall carries a poster for Earth vs. the Flying Saucers, a film Stephen King himself has cited as formative because the fantasy horror on screen was interrupted by real Cold War dread in the theater. This detail ties Phil's obsession to King's own origin story, that collision of pop horror and geopolitical terror as a single emotional event. The show is using Phil to fold classic King DNA right into the bones of 1962 Derry. Supernatural cosmic evil and nuclear annihilation sit side by side and feel the same to a scared kid.
Brett the turtle says, stuck in cover.
And then there's Lily. Lily is introduced not as a plucky misfit, but as somebody the entire ecosystem of the school is already chewing on. Her nickname is Loony Lily, and the girls who use it do not act like they're being cruel. They act like they're just describing a fact. These are the popular girls of Derry, the Patty Cakes, named after their leader Patty, who's a bit of a bitch, and their idea of a joke is to rig her locker so that a pickle jar comes crashing out and shatters at her feet.
Hey, Lils, you okay?
It looks like juvenile bullying, until you get the context. Lily's father worked at a jarring plant and died in a gruesome accident with the machinery. Importantly, the girl believes that he died because he went back in to get something for her, and carries guilt about it. There are rumors, either cruel exaggerations or maybe not exaggerations at all, that parts of his body were found sealed in jars across Maine, and the girls are essentially reenacting her father's death as performance art. The grisly details of Lily's father, chewed by gears at a pickle plant, mirror the industrial carnage of King's The Mangler, swapping laundry press for bottling line, but preserving the queasy logic, people fed to machines that never really sleep.
Got a kiss for Daddy.
After her father's death, Lily broke. She had what the adults would call an episode, and her mother later committed her to Juniper Hill. Juniper Hill Asylum is a recurring institution across Stephen King's work, the place where damaged or inconvenient people touched by supernatural horror get warehoused. In the broader It mythos, it's the same asylum where Henry Bowers is eventually locked up after Pennywise drives him mad, and where Pennywise will later manipulate him. Here, it's already the dumping ground for a traumatized girl that Derry labels crazy instead of hurt.
I can't. Please don't send me back.
Lily is still pretty raw from that. She drifts through day by day, and later that night she takes a bath to try and calm down. And that's where she hears singing coming from the drain. It's Matty singing You Got Trouble from the Music Man, the same musical that was playing in the Capitol Theatre the night he disappeared. She leans in and starts begging him to come home, promising that she'll help, but Matty says he can't come back, that he won't let him, as two bloody fingers push up through the drain. It's a direct echo of the way blood erupts from Beverly Marsh's sink and adults refuse to see it. It's also a reference to the moving finger, bubbling up from nightmares and dreamscapes, King's weird little tale about a digit attached to something too big to see, reaching from the plumbing like the world's rudest periscope. The show then floods the frame with turtles, and none of it is subtle, but we'll get into the significance of that once we finish Maturin.
Thanks for letting me talk about it. No one else does.
Lily runs to Teddy and Phil with a story the following day. Phil doesn't buy it, because Phil is too in love with his own alien government narrative. Teddy wants to believe her, but even he struggles without proof. That proof comes that very night. Teddy's at home and we see him in a domestic, grounded moment. Family dinner, his father talking to him about the Holocaust, as you do. His father tells him in almost clinical detail about concentration camps, torture, human skin lampshades.
We are Jews, Theodore. We know better than anyone the real horrors of this world.
The point his father is making is that the world is already horrifying without made-up monsters. It's framed like tough love. You don't need ghost stories, real life is terrifying enough. But then Teddy goes to bed, the light flickers, and the lampshade becomes exactly what his father described. A stretched patchwork of screaming human faces stitched together. This convinces him that whatever took Matty is still here, and it's reaching out through images tailored specifically to him.
And I know when he's lying, and he is not lying about this lampshade shit.
Now Teddy believes, while Phil believes Teddy. That's enough to push them from maybe Lily is going crazy and into we have to find out what happened. So the kids hit up the library. They start digging into newspaper clippings about Maddie's disappearance and begin tracing who last saw him alive.
The boy was last seen the night of January 4th at the Capitol Theater.
The trail leads them straight to Ronnie, the girl who covered for Matty in the theater. Ronnie, when they confront her, is defensive and scared. After Maddie vanished, she and her father were dragged into suspicion. Hank was the last adult who showed Maddie kindness, and instead of being seen as a protector, he was treated like a suspect.
Leave him be. You ever see that boy's damn family?
Do you know how many times the police came round about that boy? Trying to fix it on my pops?
Meanwhile, Leroy wakes up to masked men who beat him and threaten to shoot if he doesn't hand over classified B-52 specs.
The new B-52. If you want to walk out of here alive, you're going to give us the specs.
It plays like an interrogation, like a loyalty test, like maybe even a staged incident to see if he'll break. Luckily, Paulie comes in and helps fight them off, but the attackers vanish before we get any answers. Ronnie then reveals to the gang that she's also being haunted herself. She's been hearing music in the theater's pipes at night, and not just any song, it's You Got Trouble, as if Maddie is still in there somewhere, trapped. The fact that Lily has heard the same song through her bathtub drain tells them that it's a pattern. So the kids do the only thing they can when adults fail them. They decide to solve it themselves.
Isn't this breaking and entering? We didn't break anything, it's just entering.
As they enter the theater, there's a micro-gag tucked into the Capitol's programming, double features as foreshadow, pairing the Music Man with The Devil at 4 o'clock, where respectable adults abandon imperiled children isn't just witty curation, it's a representation of Derry's cyclical sin. Ronnie sneaks them inside and threads the Music Man into the projector to see if the movie has any clues. What happens next is the moment the show stops playing coy about Pennywise and takes the gloves off. The number You Got Trouble kicks in, with Harold Hill warning the wholesome citizens that corruption is already in their idyllic town. Then Matty is suddenly in the frame with the townspeople of River City, holding a baby and singing along like he belongs there. He then looks directly at the kids and starts telling them it's their fault, that he's trapped in here because they lied, because they weren't there for him, as his mouth stretches into a grin that's no longer human.
How is he in the goddamn movie?
What's happening? How is this possible?
You see us?
Daddy, come on, we're gonna get you out!
No, you will. You're the reason I'm in here.
Maddie then hurls the baby, which rips through the fabric of the movie screen and into the auditorium. This is the same winged umbilical corded creature from the car, only now it's bigger, faster, and absolutely murderous. The theater floods with red light, like a slaughterhouse, as Ronnie watches from the booth in total paralysis. Down on the floor, everything devolves in seconds. The demon baby launches itself through the air and starts tearing the kids apart. The massacre is mean, fast, and sickening, and it plays like a bait and switch. You thought you were watching the formation of a losers club, but the show casually wipes them out in episode 1.
What happened? They're all gone.
When the attack stops, there's blood everywhere, torn bodies, and a stunned silence. Ronnie scrambles from the projector booth to the auditorium to find Lily in the aisles covered in blood. It's only when Ronnie drags her out into the lobby that Lily looks down and realizes she's holding Susie's severed arm. Lily then screams as she and Ronnie are left as the only survivors of a slaughter no adult will ever believe happened the way they saw it.
It doesn't take long before the only witness starts to sound like the only suspect.
At the same time, the adult storyline deepens Leroy Hanlon's role. After the break-in at his quarters, after being told Derry is normal, after being sold on this base as a respectable Cold War posting, he's standing in a town that pretends to be Mayberry while quietly stockpiling for global annihilation. We also saw him read the local paper and see an article about the town council approving plans for a giant Paul Bunyan statue, something that will later become weaponized by Pennywise against Richie in It. In 1962, it's still just a headline about local pride, but the show is letting you watch Derry's future horrors being constructed in plain sight. This layering keeps happening. The pilot keeps dropping future rot into innocuous images. In a school bathroom, someone has scrawled Alvin Marsh onto the wall. Alvin Marsh will grow up to be Beverly's violently abusive father. That means we're looking at the previous generations of the Losers Club's parents right now, teenagers in 1962, already infected by Derry's ugliness. Trauma and abuse are hereditary here, and the show is explicit that the evil in Derry isn't just the cosmic clown. It's also domestic, mundane, and human. Pennywise doesn't invent that, it feeds on it. The turtles are another strand the episode keeps weaving in. All through the pilot, you get turtles. You see a duck and cover civil defense announcement starring Bert the Turtle, a Cold War PSA mascot teaching children how to survive nuclear blast shockwaves by hiding under their desks. You see an actual kid in a Bert the Turtle costume handing out safety flyers, as if this town has normalized the idea that apocalypse is just another drill. In a flashback, we see Maddie giving Lily a little turtle, and Lily says turtles are supposed to be lucky. For anyone who knows King's mythology, it's a direct invocation of Maturin, the vast, ancient cosmic turtle that stands in opposition to Pennywise, a guardian presence tied into King's wider Dark Tower cosmology. The pilot is quietly telling us that the horror in Derry is not just physical and not just local. It exists in a cosmic ecosystem with forces of destruction and forces of protection.
O-U-T! O-U-T!
Derry's map lights up with places King readers will know. The Standpipe, the big municipal water tower that looms over Derry, recurs as Lookout, Meet Up, and Omen, the very place where Stan first faced drowned children in the novel. The episode shows it multiple times, as a landmark near the base where Phil watches planes, as the place Maddie takes Lily on New Year's to talk honestly, as the meeting point for the kids when they're trying to figure out what's happening. The pilot uses the structure like a spine. Everywhere you look, the production design also keeps whispering monster movie. Teddy's walls are pasted with vintage one-sheets, universal bogies, and mid-century creeps in the same spirit as Salem Lot's Mark Petrie, and the episode frames a squad of gas-masked intruders outside Hanlon's barracks with silhouettes that pointedly mimic the creature from the Black Lagoon. We see Detective Comics issue number 298, The Man with the Clay Face, for grounding Matt Hagen, the shapeshifter whose voice mimicry and protean body anticipate the clown's own rules of play. The Capitol Theatre itself functions as a massive Easter egg. It's a recurring venue across it, and planting it as the social heart of Derry lets the series revisit a signature King space, a communal dream box where townsfolk go to be comforted, and where the mask of normalcy can be yanked off in seconds. The dialogue tosses a breadcrumb cockadoodle that plays as a schoolyard joke, but also nods directly to Misery's Annie Wilkes and a prim, murderous aversion to profanity. Derry's Americana keeps bending toward Bangor too. A painted Bangor Chew ad flashes by on Main Street, less canon than cartography, but it locates this fiction back in King's real hometown, the red Victorian house that haunts his legend as surely as any sewer. Even the Music Man is weaponized as an omen. In the theater, right before everything explodes, we hear a line of warning: our children's children are gonna have trouble. In the musical, that line is part of a conman's big scare speech. In Welcome to Derry, it lands like a prophecy. Our children's children is literal. The events of 1962 will echo forward into the lives of the Losers Clubs decades later. Pennywise operates on a roughly 27-year feeding cycle. The show is making that cycle clear. What's happening now has happened before and will happen again.
'Cause you lied. 'Cause you weren't there. You lied and I died!
It happened because of me, Georgie, me.
A lot of people out there in the community, they're frustrated. People get frustrated, they start getting funny ideas. Your daddy like that, things no little girl should ever have to deal with. The people know that. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna send you back to Juniper Hill.
What?
Check.
The episode 2 credit sequence is Norman Rockwell from Hell. It borrows the grammar of mid-century American advertising, smiling children, picket fence families, clean fonts, perfect hair, and splices it to a scrapbook of Derry's worst memories. The song does half the work. A Smile and a Ribbon, recorded in 1956 by sisters Patience and Prudence, is about being good, pretty, and receiving rewards for purity. On paper, it's a lullaby for an era that loved to sell wholesomeness. On screen, its harmonies echo over images of chaos and institutional cruelty, a curated museum of Derry's cursed timeline. We start with a Paul Bunyan statue. In episode 1, the council is wrestling with whether to approve it, treating the project as a symbol of local grit and folklore. In the credits, Bunyan begins looming with that cornball heroic stance familiar from tourist traps, but the knowledge you carry into it reshapes the smile. This is the very figure that will one day try to murder a child. Cut to the storm drain. A girl bends down to peer inside. There's no clown in the shot, no red balloon, nothing overt. The menace is in the posture and the context the show has already taught you. There's also another storm drain beside the Derry kissing bridge, with Pennywise using tentacles and candy to lure a boy towards it, a nod to Georgie's eventual doom. Juniper Hill appears with doctors prepping instruments while a child screams under glaring lamps. The credits don't need to show the incision, the suggestion is uglier. The asylum is both a location and a process, how Derry cuts out stories it doesn't want to hear. Next is the house on Nybald Street, which of course is the front door to the underside of the town where Pennywise resides. In the sequence, it's a family snapshot. Mum, dad, and daughter centered. The son turns slightly away, eyes pulled to a shadow of Pennywise in the window. The composition is pure Rockwell until you register an atomic fireball mushrooming in the background. The juxtaposition is pointed. The culture that told children to duck and cover also told them to be polite about their terror. That same etiquette, keep calm, carry on, keep smiling, permeates Derry's smaller, meaner crises. By slipping it into a family album frame, the credits collapse public life and private dread. The house isn't haunted, the town is, and the house is how you enter. All of this is then shown to a classroom being taught how to deal with a possible atomic strike as a child is seen spotting Pennywise behind them, once again. The Bradley Gang Massacre gets a historic reenactment, sepia grit, dust in the air, a street that looks as old as the bricks, and armed townspeople advancing with grim purpose. It reads like a classic American myth, citizens taking back their streets, until you remember what it has always insisted. Derry's mob justice is never just justice. Then the Kitchener Ironworks explosion. The sequence plants a giant Easter rabbit in the frame like a joke, and then it stops being funny. The bunny costume belongs to a holiday event. The explosion belongs to a crime scene. In the book's chronology, 88 children died that day. The way the rabbit fills the frame is purposeful. A symbol designed for children becomes a landmark in their mass death. Back to the song because it is the operating system. A smile and a ribbon sells a worldview in which happiness is performative, virtue is cosmetic, and prizes arrive if you behave. Over the footage of children under threat, operating rooms, and catastrophes, the lyric becomes a catechism in gaslighting. It's thematic scaffolding. The chorus doesn't just clash with the horror, it explains it. Derry survives by telling itself its children are fine, that fear is impolite, that if you look respectable, the monster will pass you by. The more people repeat it, the truer it feels. The louder they say they're happy, the less they're allowed to notice the screaming upstairs. The same reflex that normalizes global annihilation, be calm, don't think about it, the adults have a plan, is the reflex that keeps the sewers full. All of this amounts to a promise that there will be consequences for the town's self-deception.
Why is no one stopping this?
Episode 2, The Thing in the Dark, picks back up with the Capitol Theatre massacre, but this time inside Lily's flashback of the slaughter. In the present tense, the town reels. There are no bodies, only blood. So much blood that no one expects the missing kids to return. Derry's law enforcement, true to its habits, finds a convenient culprit rather than a credible theory, and Hank Grogan remains the prime suspect, despite an alibi from his mother and a vacuum of evidence.
What do you think you did to him? A lot of blood? No bodies?
Ronnie, already down to one parent, is terrified of losing him and trying, with brittle determination, to do normal things like go to school. Lily is trying the same trick. Attend class, keep her head down, pretend sleep can drown out a memory like that. Her friend Marge offers a flicker of concern, but her compass is still magnetized by Patty and the patty cakes, warning Lily to avoid Ronnie as less compassion than performance for the clique.
They see you getting cozy with you-know-who's daughter? They won't understand.
New arrivals are folded into the town's sour rhythm. Will Hanlon and his mother Charlotte have joined Leroy in Derry, and Will's first lesson isn't in any textbook. His teacher punishes him for first day tardiness without an ounce of grace, and a classmate yank pranks his chair. He does find a friend in Rich, a boy who moon-eyed crushes on Marge. The show underlines it by blasting "You'll Never Walk Alone" from Carousel as Rich watches her walk by. Muschietti's taste for incongruously chip and needle drops still firmly intact. Charlotte's day isn't kinder. She reads the brittle politeness for what it is, a velvet rope. At the butcher's shop, she collides with Derry's operating principle about adult responsibility, namely, the lack of it. A gang of boys beats another in broad daylight as the butcher smiles, saying, "Boys will be boys." When Charlotte tries to intervene, the stares indict her. If you know the law, the town is speaking to you constantly. Charlotte Hanlon's first walk through downtown Derry is a stealth museum tour. She passes a young Norbert Keene smoking outside Keene's pharmacy, a future creep who'll leer over Beverly Marsh as the loser snatch calls for Ben. She steps by the alley, where, in another chapter of this saga, 6 kids will become the Losers Club as they patch Ben's slashes and trade first truths. The Paul Bunyan statue, already teased in the pilot's newspaper, rises behind picket signs. The protests won't matter, because in a few decades, Pennywise will climb that kitschy colossus to terrorize Richie. Even the stores are loaded. Dunning Butcher's shop gives us a genial proprietor named Stan Kirsch, an ominous surname that echoes forward to Mrs. Kirsch, who pours Beverly tea that curdles into nightmare in It Chapter 2. And second-hand rose, second-hand clothes. A staple King storefront sits there as Charlotte's way station. Later in life, Bill Denbrough will push through the same door and buy his bike from a proprietor with a familiar Maine twang.
That bike used to be mine.
Well, it's mine now.
Home offers little comfort. Leroy and Will ask Charlotte to leave it, whatever it is, alone.
I'm not the one that's causing trouble.
What is with you tonight? Why are you coming at me like this?
The script weaves in Shreveport. Leroy's references to Charlotte's science and sit-ins sketch the civil rights activism that likely triggered their move. The brick through the car window tells the rest of the story about why they left. Derry is not the South, people insist. The episode argues the difference is aesthetic, not ethical.
I'm not the one that's making signs. I'm not the one that's sitting in places where I'm not wanted.
Leroy is also learning that the chain of command on base is more theater than trust. Masters has confessed to being one of the men that broke into his quarters and beat him, but the details don't add up.
He's no Soviet spy, of course. Just an asshole wanting to put a scare into a colored airman.
If Hank faces the banal horror of a wrongful arrest, Ronnie meets the monstrous kind. One of the season's strongest set pieces detonates in her bedroom. Hiding under her sheets from Hank and Grandma Grogan's argument, Ronnie feels the fabric turn slick, the light turn red, the veins pulse. The bed becomes an organic sack that fills and chokes until she rips her way out, gasping and soaked. The room is transfigured into a birthing horror. Her bed is her mother's body, torn open. The apparition, her mother, who died giving birth to her, spits blame with a dead, affectless cadence, saying she came out of her and ripped her right open. She killed her like she killed those kids, like she's gonna kill her father. The ragged wound flexes into a mouth lined with teeth, and an umbilical cord coils Ronnie back toward it. And the black behind them all, the unmistakable yellow irises, the deadlights, Pennywise's true form as a mass of cosmic, eldritch energy pulses. Ronnie's nightmare is a synthesis of Muschietti's maximalist terror and canonical Pennywise tells. The accusation,
"You came out of me and ripped me right open,"
turns Ronnie's birth into an original sin. It's an Easter egg tilted toward character. The eyes are a brand mark, yes, but their appearance in this guise folds the larger mythology into Ronnie's private guilt. Pennywise doesn't just wear faces, it controls memories. Ronnie clamps down and literally bites through the cord and breaks free. The decaying mother thing jerks into that jittery Pennywise pursuit we know too well, and then Hank opens the door, oblivious to the horror that just occurred.
"Come to mama!"
The human monsters continue to go on with their day. At the bar, Police Chief Clint Bowers is pressured by Councilman Tibbs to make an arrest. Lack of evidence be damned. "This is America," Bowers protests. "This ain't America. This is Derry," Tibbs corrects him. Bowers might not be slapping cuffs on Hank yet, but he flexes his local power by trying to get 3 black soldiers tossed out. Dick Halloran senses this to be the case before the words are even spoken.
Where are we supposed to go to relax around here?
One asks, a question that sketches the need the black spot will one day meet. The scene's other function is to focus on Halloran. Later, when the inebriated trio pass through the base gate without friction, we see the reason. Halloran has special privileges because he has a special job. Call it what it is, the shine. He's using a psychic gift to locate dig sites the brass consider important. What they are hunting isn't revealed until the very end of the episode, when secrecy gives way to exposition.
This is the 4th dig site in as many months. I'm getting tired of dragging my ass out into the middle of the woods for scraps.
We're close. Close, I can feel it.
Back at the school, Lily chooses solitude over the patty cake's performance of friendship. Ronnie sits across from her, asking Lily to tell the police what she saw at the theater to clear Hank.
You know, I said I wasn't really sure.
I don't know what I saw. Sounds like you're too scared to tell.
Lily has already told the cops that Hank wasn't there, but refuses to go further. But she has her reasons. Talk about a flying demon baby, and they won't call her a witness, they'll call her unstable. And her time at Juniper Hill is not something she wants to repeat.
You don't know, Ronnie, what it was like in that place.
The school day adds another layer of Derry texture. On the high school bulletin board, a blunt curfew announcement. Inside a chalkboard doodle, Mike Loves Christine reads as ordinary teen graffiti unless you speak king, in which case the title Christine revs like a cherry 58 Fury, and scrolled in smaller ways all across the hour are tiny continuity threads from the premiere. Cold War civil defense Keach still hangs in the air. Bert the turtle stuck in cover Spectre, while a literal turtle charm quietly hangs on Lily's bracelet. Unfortunately, Chief Bowers summons Lily to the station and slides the mask off courtesy into threat. If she won't put Hank at the scene, she could move from witness to suspect. People hear stories about a girl with emotional problems found covered in her friend's blood, and, well, you can see how this doesn't look good, he says. A brief stint at Juniper Hill might clear things up, he adds, if she's certain. Terrified and cornered, Lily offers the damning half-truth. She can't be absolutely certain that Hank wasn't there.
Chief, everybody knows he hurt those kids.
Think about the parents, Chief. Do your job. Or come next election, we'll find somebody else who will.
That is enough, and Hank is arrested for the murders of Teddy, Phil, and Susie.
Can you be absolutely certain that he wasn't there?
Daddy!
Ronnie, shattered, blames Lily, and their brief bridge burns in an instant. The betrayal doesn't save Lily, though. Her next errand to pick up items from the local store for her mother turns into a labyrinth. The grocery aisles drift, closing in like hedges. The shoppers smile too wide and murmur that she's crazy. The PA crackles with a taunt.
Lily Bainbridge, have you lost your marbles?
A shelf face advertises for Zola, a cousin to King's recurring Nizola, signaling the ways worlds rhyme even when the label shifts. And tucked among the cans are cylinders of Calumet baking powder, a direct visual rhyme with the Overlook Hotel's pantry in The Shining. A display of Pennywise's cornflakes faces her, boxes illustrated with her dead friends' faces, and then the aisles move again, penning her inside a ring of pickles that serve as a grave for her father. The jars topple and the pieces assemble themselves into an octopoid abomination, with Dad's head pleading for a kiss.
Got a kiss for Daddy.
In the aftermath of her breakdown, Lily is sent off to Juniper Hill again. The orderlies who meet her smile with that eerie Pennywise grin, institutional cruelty wearing customer service teeth. Meanwhile, at the Air Force Base, Leroy methodically proves Master's confession was a plant and forces his superior's hand. General Shaw admits the obvious. The break-in was a test.
I needed to know if word of your brain injury in South Korea were true, and Major, you did not disappoint.
Leroy's brain injury in Korea damaged his amygdala. He cannot feel fear. That makes him perfect for Operation Precept, the base's top-secret program. This is where Shaw delivers the pitch. There's a weapon buried beneath Derry, one that could end the Cold War before any missile launches. It generates fear so potent it can stop a heart. Around it, like a crown, are objects, beacons that can be sensed and mapped.
What is all this?
Bear with me, Major. Welcome to Operation Precept, a classified DoD crash program with a single purpose. This weapon, it generates debilitating fear in anyone who comes near it.
The military plotline stitches King and World together in a few ways. Dick Halloran shows up not as a cameo, but as a functioning part of Derry's machine. The show never says shine, but the language around him says it for us. He's an asset, his sense is tuned to places no one else can hear, and the price of using that sense is nausea. Dick had a critical part in it as a founder of the Black Spot, a bar in Derry that catered to black soldiers and was burned down. Dick also links this prequel to The Shining and Dr. Sleep. General Shaw's Operation Precept feels like a sibling to Project Arrowhead from The Mist and the shadowy shop of Firestarter, a government arm that believes it can inventory, isolate, and weaponize that which feeds on us. Precept's premise, that Derry is littered with beacons surrounding an entity that generates lethal fear, and if you can triangulate them, you can extract a strategic advantage, reads like a 1962 fever dream, and a King meta-joke. Of course the military thinks it can bottle a cosmic predation and point it at Moscow. Of course it will likely fail in a way that gets everyone hurt.
You're building a weapon?
We're looking for one that is surrounded on all sides by a group of objects. Think of them as beacons.
The beacons themselves bind the mythic map to the dirt under Derry. The big dig pays off with a car creaking up into the light filled with the Bradley gang. In King's book, they meet Citizen Justice in broad daylight, and Norbert Keane remembers a clown among the good guys. Here that memory becomes evidence, as if the town shot them in the street and then, not knowing where to put the guilt, stuffed it into a car and buried it. The opening credits prefigure this by staging the massacre in illustrative shorthand, the closing minutes grounded in mud and bone. The implication is the real Easter egg. Derry's mythology isn't buried beneath the town, it is the town. Zoom back out and you can see how many other small stitches the episode makes to that larger quilt. Clint Bowers, the police chief, with the practiced smile and the pliant spine, slides the Bowers bloodline into place. Henry's violence won't be a spontaneous eruption in the 80s so much as an inherited structure. There's a quieter set of connective tissues too. Boys will be boys, says Dan Kirsch, as a pack of teens beat the smaller kid in the street. Adults in Derry don't merely miss things, they ignore them. They cultivate a kind of selective blindness that looks like politeness and functions like complicity. King's Derry has always been a place where nice people look away so thoroughly that evil starts to use their averting gaze as cover. Episode 2 understands that, and it bakes it into every cutaway smile.